Her breath came out in clouds, floating into the freezing room. The blue blanket barely covered her feet, its edges frayed and stained. She coughed, deep and rough, curling into herself to stay warm. The walls groaned with wind. The heater had been silent for weeks. Her mother pressed a warm cloth to her head, eyes full of fear. "Stay with me, please," she whispered. "Just hold on a little longer." Outside, the snow fell like silence. Inside, the blue blanket was the only thing left between her and the cold. She staggered down the snowy street, holding her daughter close. The girl didn't move. Her head slumped, breath barely there. The blue blanket clung to them, wet at the corners. "Just a little more," the mother whispered through tears. Cars passed without slowing. The night was too cold to care. A neighbor opened a door, eyes wide, and made the call. The streetlight flickered as a distant siren broke the silence. The sound wasn't loud, but it was everything. The emergency doors hissed open as the gurney rolled in. Nordas rushed to her side, eyes scanning machines, lips pressing lines of concern. She was still wrapped in the blue blanket, now soaked and clinging to her skin. "Severe hypothermia," a voice said. "Get heat packs IV now." Her lips were purple, fingers icy, heart rate shallow. The nurse touched the blanket, then her cheek. "She's so small." "You are doomed." Her mother collapsed in a chair, crying into her sleeves. The warmth came slowly, but the blanket never left her. The nurse stared at the phone screen, heart heavy. She had seen pain before, but not like this. She tapped new post and began typing. She came in wrapped in a torn blue blanket. Attached was the photo, no face, just the blanket, the pale hand beneath it. She should be warm. She should be safe. Winter shouldn't take children, she wrote. She hesitated, then hit share. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, hope quietly began to spread. In a high-rise office far from the snow, a man scrolled through his tablet. Meetings, flights, deadlines. Then the blanket. He stopped, tapped. Read, diet, then read again. The words hit harder than the numbers on his screen. He set the tablet down and stared out at the Dubai skyline. Then he picked up his phone. "Find them," he said, "and get them warm. Kindness travels faster than cold," and it had just begun its journey. The machines beeped slowly, steadily, like lullabies. She lay tucked into clean sheets, a warm blanket replacing the old blue one. Her breathing was stronger now, her cheeks less pale. Beside her, her mother had fallen asleep in the chair, exhausted, relieved. Sunlight touched the curtains, softening the edges of worry. A nurse peeked in and smiled quietly at the peaceful scene. Warmth had finally arrived, not just in degrees, but in presence. "This girl, this is the one from the blanket post," the coordinator said. Staff gathered around the screen, reading, eyes wide and full of urgency. "We can cover full housing and medical care," said one. "Let's make it fast. No more nights in cold." They began organizing, calls to hospitals, temporary lodging, legal papers. A warmth began to move, faster than frost, deeper than sympathy. She wasn't just a story now. She was someone they were choosing to protect. The nurse stepped in quietly, an envelope in her hand. "This just arrived for you," she said to the mother. Inside, a letter from the charity, travel arrangements, and a simple message. "You are not alone anymore. Rinai. Peace out." The mother's fingers trembled. Her lips quivered. She looked at her daughter, sleeping softly, unaware of what was changing. A tear dropped onto the letter. The nurse touched her shoulder. "She'll have a home now, a real one." The truck engine hummed in the cold, warming the street. Inside their old home, the air was still icy. But the silence felt different. Volunteers packed their few things, carefully, respectfully. The mother watched the walls, worn and cracked, like closing an old book. She held the blue blanket one last time, torn, yes, but sacred now. Then folded it and placed it on top of a box marked "Keep Forever." This place had nearly taken her child. The next would help her live. The new apartment smelled like fresh paint and cinnamon. Sunlight poured in through clean windows that actually sealed shut. The girl stepped in slowly, her hand still in her mother's. There was a bed, with blankets, real ones, soft, warm, whole. A woman knelt and opened a box of toys and books. "These are for you. Yuan." She stared in silence, eyes filling slowly. Then she whispered, "Is this really ours?" The answer came in a smile. "Yes. Forever warm now." Yeah. The fire crackled softly, its warmth seeping into every corner. She lay on the couch wrapped in a thick, fluffy blanket, no longer blue, but safe. A storybook rested on her chest, her fingers still curled around it. Her mother entered with a mug of tea and a quiet smile. "You look better today," she said gently. The girl nodded. "I think my chest doesn't hurt anymore." None. The silence now wasn't cold. It was peaceful. Healing had begun. Not just in body, but in soul. The doctor's hands were warm, the stethoscope soft against her skin. He listened, then smiled and nodded. "Your lungs sound strong. You're recovering well." Her mother exhaled in relief, hands trembling slightly. They'd walked to the clinic, not rushed, not scared. The girl grinned. "I walked a whole way without stopping." The doctor high-fived her. Strong heart, strong legs. "Ida, da." That was the first time she saw pride on her mother's face again. The bowl was too big for her arms, but she stirred with determination. "Like this?" she asked. "Perfect," her mother replied, adding more sugar. Flour dusted the air like winter, but this time it brought laughter, not fear. She licked her finger. "It already tastes good." "Yeah, that's because you helped," her mother said. They didn't have much, but they had warmth, and enough to make sweetness. Crayon lines filled the paper. Yellow for sun, green for grass, blue for sky. She drew a house with smoke curling from the chimney and a smiling girl in the window. "Who's that?" her mother asked. "It's me," she replied, "but not sick anymore." "Yuan, Kishi, Turtle, Abu, Atornench, Ar." She added a dog beside the house, even though they didn't have one. Sometimes drawings were dreams waiting for time. And now they had time, and space to dream. She slept soundly, her breathing even and slow. Her hand clutched a stuffed animal, face calm in the lamplight. On the chair beside her bed sat the old blue blanket. Clean, folded, and still whole. Her mother looked in from the hallway, eyes soft with quiet joy. The room no longer echoed. It held peace now. The blue blanket wasn't wrapped around her anymore. But, in a way, it still held her. In memory, in gratitude, in story. She stood at the school gates, her backpack new and her shoes worn. The hallway smelled like crayons and hope. Children rushed past, coats swishing and voices echoing. She held her mother's hand tightly until the teacher smiled and knelt. "Ready to learn, little one?" She nodded, heart thudding, not from fear, but from something like excitement. She took her first step into the classroom, carrying more than a bag. She carried a second chance. The room was full of stories, on posters, in drawings, in tearful eyes. She held up her picture, a small girl under a blue blanket, stars shining above. A charity worker knelt beside her. This is your story. She nodded. But now the blanket is folded. I don't need it anymore. Yeah. Applause filled the room. Not loud, but deep. Even her mother wiped her eyes behind her scarf. The cold had once tried to take everything. Now it had become a symbol of what love can warm. She sat cross-legged, the book balanced in her lap. And the bear found a cave with fire, and he wasn't cold anymore. She read aloud. The children leaned closer, wide-eyed, quiet. Her voice was stronger now, clear, proud. The teacher watched from behind the shelf, smiling softly. She had once been the one wrapped in silence. Now, she wrapped others in stories. The fire flickered softly, casting gold on the walls. She sat between her mother's knees, her hair being gently braided. "You know," her mother said, "I used to be so afraid of winters." "I'm not anymore," the girl replied quietly. They didn't have much, but now they had each other, and a roof, and warmth. The room smelled of cinnamon tea and clean blankets. The world outside might still be cold, but inside, everything had changed. The blue blanket sat folded by the window, untouched, but honored. She walked past it with a spring in her step, sunlight lighting her cheeks. Outside, flowers bloomed where snow once fell. She no longer needed to hide beneath it, but she would never forget it. It had once held her broken. Now, it reminded her of rising. Her journey wasn't about the blanket. It was about what came after. Winter never wins. Not where love finds its way in.